It's a Godwinson live news alert on the status of Mundane Matt's DMs. What will we learn? Let's get drunk. One more! Let's go! Mundane Matt's DMs. Okay, so, if you don't know, you should know. Mundane Matt. He's been messaging this 35-year-old married woman. Apparently she's a 10 out of 10. I don't see it personally. But here's the crazy, hilarious thing, right? Mundane Matt's DMs consist of him thirsting over this woman. Real going for it hard. He aches for her. His eyes hurt. This is what he's telling this woman. He wants to feel this woman in an atavistic way. He's ready, is Mundane Matt, to spend vast sums of money on this woman, just so he can get that sweet, sweet vajayjay. Alas, Mundane Matt once more has proved himself to be a loser. Just a total fucking loser. Quick, get the documentaries made, lads. This is the latest happening in the long trash fire of Mundane Matt's life. Surely this is newsworthy to add to the Mundane Matt canon. Surely this deserves a 40-minute deconstruction, right? Laced with adverts. Inserting NordVPN and Proton Mail adverts in between every segment of the video. Surely this is what it requires. Wait, what? Surely not. Oh my goodness. So it turns out that this isn't Mundane Matt at all. It's Dick Masterson. The alpha Chad. The pussy-slaying alpha Chad whose only words to women are, "Bitch, bring me a sandwich," and they submit in complete deference. Dick Masterson, the chauvinist in chief. He's saying he thirsts for these women. He aches for her, this 35-year-old married woman. He wants to feel her in an atavistic way. His eyes are hurting. Dick Masterson, ladies and gentlemen. Is the news as funny now? Now that instead of it being Mundane Matt, it's Dick Masterson? You decide. Personally, I think it's funny regardless, right? Regardless of who said these things. Because these acts are cringeworthy to the extreme. And there's a great many of you out there who are wondering, why aren't these DMs being spoken about? Why is it being covered up by the Killstream crew? Why are the people around Dick Masterson, specifically those a part of his new project too, why are they covering this up? Why are they making a nothing burger out of it? When in fact this is pretty funny. If this were Mundane Matt, there'd be leagues of videos out there already dissecting these DMs, saying that these DMs are cringeworthy, saying that these DMs are just completely, lolcowish, I suppose you could say? Perhaps what makes these doubly potent is that Dick Masterson professes to be this chauvinist in chief, professes to be the incel spiritual king. And it turns out that he doesn't practice what he preaches. In fact, he's pretty much, one of the simps? He's one of the simps, right? The way he's getting pussy, the way he's chasing a 35-year-old married woman, definitely puts him in the category of the simps. Them simps that he apparently separates himself from every time he does his show. Bitch, bring me a sandwich! They're the only words that Dick Masterson says to women. He doesn't say he wants to ache for them, his eyes hurt. He wants to feel them in an atavistic way. He wants to spend vast amounts of money on them. That's not Dick Masterson, surely. Well, it turns out that the public persona of Dick Masterson is completely at odds with who he is himself. And what he practices, how he gets women, is completely at odds with what he says to you, the simp at home. Anyway, right, so there's Dick Masterson, right? And we've already alluded to people cleaning up for Dick, right? People are just cleaning up for Dick Masterson. Now you may wonder, why are they doing this? What's the difference, right? Dick Masterson, the Killstream crew, surely they have no correlation. They shouldn't have any correlation. The Killstream crew, the people who, for example, have made hours and hours and hours of content upon Mundane Matt and Tonkasaw for doing similar things to this. Why are they being so quiet now? Why are they playing this down? Well, let's talk about something called New Project 2. Now, this seems to be Dick Masterson's version of Patreon, where he harvests your personal details. He gets you, if you're a promising e-celeb, to sign up to it, and you can gain a vast wealth by doing this. You bypass the Patreons, you bypass the PayPals, you bypass the Subscribe Stars, you bypass all of those people that are going to go and get your money, taken away if you wrong think. No, your money's safe with Dick Masterson. Your money is going to be okay with Dick, right? It's safe. Now let's turn our attention to someone who's really fallen from grace as of late, right? Let's just get into it, because I think it all speaks for itself. This person who's really fallen from grace is a person called Toad McKinley. Now Toad had a little renaissance of sorts. He had a really great run of videos. I'm talking about the Chatelet Strangler video. I'm talking about the Tonkasaw video that was never followed up on, but that's another story. But we're talking about some really great content that sort of shaped the canon of what we're in at the moment. Just really great, nectarous content. Kino, I dare say. Alas, he's fallen from grace. He's decided to become this... What? Well, I mean, let's be honest. He's decided to build a brand around a fat woman. And when she dies of this heart attack, which is about, 3-4 weeks away, he's lost everything. But he's decided to build a brand on this fat woman because she eats food on camera, and apparently that's funny. I don't see the humour in it, unless she's doing it for Hillary Clinton's, re-election campaign. But I don't see the humour in it. But apparently it's vastly funny. It gains great numbers, right? These videos have got millions of views. That Feud Beauty is what I'm talking about. Chantel is who I'm talking about. Toad's decided to hitch his wagon to Chantel. He's built this brand around her. He's driving merchandise sales of shirts with chug the gravy on them. Catchphrases that she says. It's bottom of the barrel, McDonald's tier content. I wouldn't even call it Kino. There's more Kino in this little finger, right, than there is in the entirety of Toad's output this year. The entirety of Toad's YouTube output is nothing compared to the Kino that's in this little finger. Anyway, Toad's fallen from grace, right? And part and parcel of him falling from grace isn't just him hitching his wagon to this gluttonous whale. It's the fact that he's decided to sell out in the worst way possible. I mean, it's okay if you sell out and you gain vast sums of money by doing so. It's okay if you sell out and you're confident in the fact that you're going to be pretty much financially set up. I can agree with that sort of selling out. And also, it's okay if you sell out, if that doesn't mean you're actually selling your soul, But let's just get into what Toad's doing here. So just a quick peruse of Toad's Twitter here says that, the first thing you read when you're on Toad's Twitter is his bio. And his bio is just fucking laced with donate links. It's not even about the content anymore, right? The actual content is the fourth link down. The actual link to his YouTube channel is the fourth link down. Right? But preceding that, we've got, patreon.com, Toad McKinley. We've got New Project 2, Toad McKinley. We've got PayPal, Toad McKinley. We've got all of these links for him to shill. And then we finally get to the content. That's a little microcosm of what Toad's become at this point. A total shill. He wants your money and nothing else, right? He doesn't really care about what video he's making. As long as he can insert that NordVPN advert and that Proton Mail advert pretty much every 10 sort of so minutes, that's fine for Toad. He's got your money, he's okay. He doesn't necessarily need anything else. Anyway, so we've got Patreon. He's not making a great deal on Patreon. Last time I checked, it was something like $136, right? Personally, I wouldn't sell my soul for $136, but that's just me, right? That's just me. Personally, I'd want at least about $2,000, right? $2,000 a month at the very least to start thinking about this as a sort of career, which it's never going to be because it's the internet. It's the internet. And I've preached this for years, ever since, 2012, 2013? I've been preaching this exact same message. And the tide of the internet's gone in a completely different way. When I first started saying, it's just for the lulz, it's just a hobby, we don't need to make money off this, pretty much the entirety of the internet was in agreeance with that. Obviously, people like that guy with the glasses, the angry video game nerd, they were making money and that was okay and we enjoyed that. But we didn't like watching adverts on Blip TV. No one liked that. People had ad blocker. People used to abide by a code where if you e-begged, you were depersoned from society. You were depersoned from this realm. You were a no person. You weren't even worthy to watch. I attribute a lot of this e-beggery to things like Gamergate, where the skeptics tricked people into donating large sums of money to them because they felt that they were fighting a political crusade, when in fact they were just lining the bank accounts of some neat aristocrat. Sargon is one of them. I mean, you can also attribute it to Kraut. You can also attribute it to Bering. All of these skeptics did this. It sort of changed the mood of the internet, where now it seems normal. It seems fucking normal that you have to e-beg on the internet for your appalling content. But it's not normal. It's not natural. And we're coming for you, Toad. This is it. This is the day of reckoning, Toad McKinley. And we're here for you. So $136 he's making on Patreon. I wouldn't sell my soul for that, but Toad McKinley has pretty much readily sold his soul for that. New Project 2. Now, this is what's most relevant to this discussion. So, New Project 2 is Dick Masterson's version of Patreon, and Toad McKinley makes a grand total of $26. $26 on Dick Masterson's Patreon. 26 pieces of silver, because as we're going to see, Toad's behaviour during this Dick Masterson drama DM cycle has been pretty fucking shameless. I understand that, $26 is going to go a long way, right? If you're this basement-dwelling neat, and you don't pay rent and you just live on chicken tendies, that's going to go a long way, I understand. But in this life, the things we do in our mortal form will affect our eternal soul, Toad. When we die, we're judged. And that judgment determines whether we go to heaven or hell. And your actions have determined that you just go to fucking hell, Toad. This is just appalling behaviour. So, for $26 a month, right, Toad McKinley, who's given his personal details to Dick Masterson, so obviously he's maybe scared of Dick. I understand. You've given your personal details to Dick Masterson on this new Patreon alternative. You think it's going to pay, wild sums of money to you. It's going to be great for you, Toad. Yeah, they can't wrong-think you. They can't ban you for saying something offensive on Patreon anymore because you've got Dick Masterson's new project too. I understand the thinking behind that. But I also understand not selling out your principles to protect your Lord and Master, Dick Masterson. So Dick Masterson did these DMs, atavistic, I ache for you, my eyes hurt, I'm going to spend money flying you out. Just at odds with his public persona, we all know, right? We all know that Toad would be making documentary out. He'd have fucking wheeled out a Netflix series on this if it were Mundane Matt or Tonkasaur. He'd have been tweeting about this 24/7 if it were Mundane Matt Tonkasaw. But apparently, right, apparently, there's nothing to see here, folks, in these DMs. Apparently, these DMs are just a nothing burger. It's not even funny. Not even funny, right? So, here we are. He writes about Dick Masterson in the most mealy-mouthed way. This is how I describe these tweets. Mealy-fucking-mouthed. Toad McKinley, it is with great regret that I must inform everyone that I no longer am a fan of the Dick Show or Dick Masterson. I made this decision after it was brought to my attention that there was irrefutable evidence that Dick lies to women for sex. Right, so this is Toad backhanding the drama here, sort of sweeping it away. Go away, drama. No, nothing to see here. The fact is, Toad, it's not that Dick lied to a woman for sex, it's that he was fucking sincere when he was saying this shit. It's all well and good Dick saying, oh, I was lying, I was pretending that my eyes hurt, I was pretending that I ached for her, it was pretended that I wanted to feel her in an atavistic way, I was just pretending when I was thirsty as fuck for this 35-year-old married woman, I was just pretending. No. He was 100% sincere. He wanted this desperately, and he didn't care about making himself look like a fool in the process. But, Toad's just saying, oh, I'm not a fan now because Dick's lied to women in a sort of detached, ironic, who gives a fuck way. That's not the issue here, Toad. And you're being very, very slimy in dodging what the actual issue is. The issue is that Dick Masterson professes to be something that he indeed is not in real life. Now, I understand character. I understand that you're not the same person you portray as a persona. But when you're making large amounts of money selling a lie to incels and simps and the religious right, then you've got to be held accountable. And when you do stuff like this, you've got to be held accountable. So Toad's just already sweeping this away as a nothing burger, right? And he's retweeting people who are saying, oh, Dick lies for women to sex, and just defeating the most common sort of idiotic defense of Dick Masterson. And he says here that... So this is Toad, right? And now you can determine whether Toad has done this. I'm not saying either way that Toad has done this thing. I'm not saying that Toad's a liar. I don't necessarily know Toad's intimate personal life. But for him to wheel out this in defense of Dick Masterson, it seems a bit suspect. Suspect is the word I'd use. So... 1, in the chat if you believe this. 2, if you think that Toad's a fucking liar. Toad says, I've said teenager tear sap for a dry hand job, and I think I can pardon it if it resulted in fucking 2 chicks at once. Right? So, Toad McKinley said this, right, in return for a hand job. He simped in return for a hand job. Now, you press 1 if you think Toad's actually ever had sex in his life. Or you press 2 if you think that Toad's a fucking liar. I see lots of 2s. I see 100 2s here already in the seconds that I've said that. So, I mean, he goes on, right? Just running defense force for Dick Masterson when we all fucking know. We all know in our hearts, we all know in our fucking minds that Toad would be all over this like a tramp on chips if it were Mundane Matt or Tonkasaw. Or even Sargon. If Sargon's simping DMs came out, Toad would be all over this shit. But apparently money talks, and money has persuaded Toad McKinley to just sell out in the worst, least principled way possible. And the money that we're talking about isn't even fucking loads of money. It's $26. 26 pieces of silver Toad sold his soul for. Toad says here, upon reading these DMs, Toad saying, I alternated between laughing and cringing. Certainly worth busting his balls about. I would have killed myself out of embarrassment personally, but I don't have as many bitcoins or as much acid. So this is Toad sort of saying, when the drama hits, when Godwinson and PPP and others come after him, well, I did laugh at Dick Masterson. I did say it was cringeworthy and embarrassing. Well, where's the follow-up to that, Toad? Where's the follow-up to that? A one-line, backhanded comment, an offhand comment that sort of addresses the issue but doesn't really. The slimy sort of the slimy sort of fence-sitting position you're on, Toad. It's fucking disgraceful. I alternated between laughing and cringing. No, this was just cringeworthy and hilarious, and if this was Mundane Matt, you would have alternated between your fucking word processor and your video editor, desperately trying to get this out before everyone else does so you could rake in as much ad revenue as possible, Toad. You're a fucking disgrace. Look at this. Certainly worth busting his balls about, but not by me, apparently. Apparently not by Toad McKinley, because this is the last he's ever going to say that defames his fucking Lord and Master Dick Masterson, who gives him $26 a month for nothing. For what? For what? This? Running to clean up for fucking Dick Masterson? 26 pieces of silver, Toad? Really? You know, I would have killed myself out of embarrassment. Personally, I don't have as many bitcoins or as much. Just fuck yourself, Toad. You should be tweeting about this 24/7, right? But look, you've sold yourself, you've sold your personal details to Dick Masterson. I understand you're in a compromised position, but you shouldn't have done that. And if anything, if you want to fucking go against Dick and you're afraid he's going to dox you, let it happen. There's nothing wrong with showing your face, Toad. Who gives a fuck? Honestly. You're not Jim. You've never been Jim. You're not even a Soylent Jim. You're not even my fucking little finger, Toad. You're just Toad McKinley. You're Toad McKinley, and you've built a brand around appropriating Nintendo's intellectual property. And you know they're fucking they're going to litigate you. You know they're fucking going to sue you. So you now, I see you've started changing your avatar, so I understand it's the flames are rising around you. But look, you're Toad McKinley. You're not Jim. You've never been Jim. Listen to me. You've never been Jim. You're not even a cool guy on the internet. You're not even this little finger. You're not even PPP or Gahool or even fucking Coach Red Pill. You don't even have the fucking charisma of Coach Red Pill. The only thing that's going to make you any more respected than you aren't now is if you actually fucking show your face. Is if you say to Dick, fuck you, I'm not going to play by your rules, you've got my personal details, I don't care if you dox me, I don't give a fuck. $26, I don't care, I'm making a principled stand because you're a cringeworthy motherfucker, Dick, and I don't want to play ball anymore with your way of doing things. That's what's going to make people respect you again, Toad. So he goes on, right? He goes on. He engages in this fucking cringeworthy discussion with Pod Awful. Now, my experience of Pod Awful is zero. Absolutely zero. My only experience of Pod Awful is through this exchange with Toad McKinley. And I have to say, 100% that Pod Awful comes off in this exchange much, much, much better than Toad McKinley. And we're going to see why, right? So Pod Awful says, what kind of work do you do, right, to Toad? I imagine he doesn't know Toad, right? Because who the fuck does, right? Who knows Toad? Toad's not Jim. Toad's not really anyone, apart from making fun of Chantel, the foodie beauty. He made some good videos. He made some great documentaries on Tonkasaw. He made some great videos on the Chatelet Strangler in Sargon. But that's long, long in the past. He's not really maintained that to have a great reputation with other creators. Instead, Pod Awful's saying, what kind of work do you do? And Toad says, I'm up early Saturday morning to tell everyone on Twitter how successful you are at the internet. So he's just railing on Pod Awful for no reason, really. I don't really see a reason. Pod Awful, as we're going to see later, sort of points out the hypocrisy in Toad, saying that, you know, you'd have covered this if it wasn't Dick Masterson, if you weren't selling your soul for 26 pieces of silver. But you're going to see how the ego of Toad has fucking inflated, right? Has inflated to the point where he's got Sargon-esque tears of fucking ego here. So here we go. Toad's just railing on this guy, railing on Pod Awful, saying, doesn't really matter if you're living these real neat hours, you're equally pathetic in the evenings and afternoons. Right, well, Pod Awful might be pathetic, but what does that make you, Toad? What does that make you that you're selling your soul for 26 pieces of silver to Tickmasters? What does it make you that you've got a Patreon which says, you know, you make $136 a month, right? That's not a career. That's pretty pathetic, Toad. You're selling everything out just for that. What can I say? So, I mean, this is where Toad's ego fucking swells. This is where Toad's ego explodes, reaches Sargon-esque liberalist tears of big-brainedness, right? So here we are seeing Toad say, Podawful says, you seem to have a pretty big YouTube channel, Toad. Why don't you have more people on your Patreon and new project too? Which is a valid point, right? It's a valid point. Maybe those people you've attracted, Toad, don't necessarily like you selling out in the way you have. Maybe. Just a thought. So Podawful raises that opinion. I don't know who the fuck Podawful is. I've never even heard of Podawful before this exchange. But he's coming out pretty well here. He's raising some valid points. Toad says, all right. Ego on this guy. All right, take it slow and get back to me. This might be difficult for you. So Toad's just fucking patronising this guy for no reason. This guy's asking a valid question. Toad says, take your average view count, calculate how much money you get from AdSense, and multiply that by 400 to 500 times. If one of the videos is sponsored, multiply the sum by 2.5. So Toad's saying that he's a fucking big cheese here. He's got a great big ego, right? It doesn't matter if he's making fuck all on Patreon or fucking new project too, because he's raking in the dollars on fucking AdSense. This is appalling. This is the ego on Toad now. What happened, man? What happened to you, man? This shouldn't be this way. Save your fucking soul, Toad. Save your soul. I'm not going to profane anyone because I know Leo's turning in his bedside because of this. He doesn't like people profaning, and I'm going to refrain from profaning and slurring Toad. But we're just going to lay out Toad's actions here and just sort of see how shameless he's become, right? So further on in this interaction with Podawful, Podawful says, why don't you try to make more from your fan funding stuff? It's more steady, lucrative, and better for your fans. Do you just not offer anything good? What Podawful's point here is, why are you just inserting NordVPN, 5-minute NordVPN and 5-minute Proton Mail adverts into your videos? Right? Why can't you keep that out of your content and just fan fund the rest? Which is kind of a valid point. I don't necessarily agree with fan funding. I don't necessarily agree with throwing money at your e-celebs. But it's kind of a valid point. I don't necessarily want to sit through 5 minutes of NordVPN. I don't want to sit through 5 minutes of Proton Mail. That's just me. Toad says, in the most arrogant way possible, it doesn't even address Podawful's comments. He says, are all your friends just a bunch of failed ZE celebs too? Because that's the way the shit you say would make any sense. Your insights sounds like they're coming from people pretending to know what the fuck they're talking about. Of course, people don't know what the fuck they're talking about when they talk about you, Toad, when they criticise you, Toad. People just don't know what they're talking about. It's not for people to sort of be knowledgeable about. People can't see hypocrisy and point at it and go, that's pretty hypocritical, Toad. That's pretty scummy, Toad. That's pretty slimy, Toad. People can't do that because we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. Well, let me tell you, Toad, I know what the fuck I'm talking about, and we're coming for you. Right, he goes on, right? He goes on in this interaction with Podawful. Where even are we at this point? It's halfway down his Twitter feed. We're reading Toad's Twitter for people who have just joined us. And he says, right, Podawful says, and this is good, this is right, because Jim does this. Jim, when he replies to someone's tweets on Twitter, he'll quote the tweet, right? So you're not necessarily atting that person directly. You're quoting the tweet and then writing your description, right? So it appears in your tweets page and not your tweets and replies section. So you get more people liking your stuff. It's a fucking underhanded way of interacting with someone on the internet. And Podawful says, why do you keep quote tweeting me, Toad? Do you have other reply guys that this fake black dude who keeps responding? So apparently there's a fake black dude who keeps responding in the comments. But Pod Awful's making a valid criticism here. And then Toad says, I like to trot out dipshits in front of my following, like it's the county fair and you're my prized cow. Really, Toad? Really, Toad? You like to, trot out dipshits? Well, why isn't Dick Masterson all over your fucking Twitter feed? I'm sorry, Leo. I apologise. But why isn't Dick Masterson all over your Twitter feed if you're trotting out people, dipshits, like this? Like it's a country fair and Dick's your prized cow. Why aren't you doing that, Toad? Is it because he's giving you 26 pieces of silver a month? Is that really the price of your soul? Well, apparently so. So let's carry on with this Twitter feed. Where are we? Okay, so Pod Awful says, quote tweeting to the reply guys, it's a tactic from women on Facebook who tag all their bitch friends when they are losing an argument. This might be a woman, though. I literally don't know. And you know what? This is a tactic a woman would use, Toad. You quote tweeting. Jim does it as well, and it's pretty shameless. But Toad's doing it here, and Pod Awful says you literally might be a woman. And you might be a woman. Who the fuck knows? Because you don't show your face. You don't show who you are. I'm not going to drag you out of your anonymity, Toad. But if it's between your anonymity and your soul, your eternal life force, you getting to heaven, if it's between you staying anonymous and sucking Dick's gunt for all it's worth, or you standing up to Dick Masterson saying, these DMs are pretty cringy, and you know what? I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to make a video on them. I'm going to tweet about them. And that means you have to show your face because Dick's going to dox you. You're going to gain more respect showing your face, Toad. And you might be a woman. Who knows? Maybe you are a male to female trans woman. Who knows, Toad? Who knows? So, I mean, even Pod Awful, right, is asking you to show yourself. Just sort of reveal who you are. Come on. Come on. You can't really hold opinions with someone where you're criticising other people's visage, where you're criticising other people's appearances, and you're not really showing yourself. It's kind of disingenuous. It's kind of like when Gator calls other people fat, when we already know he's like a 400-pound land whale. It's kind of like that. So, I mean, Toad says here, I've never been scared to show pictures of myself or my beautiful girlfriend. And then he just tweets out a picture of Foodie Beauty, this Chantel woman, and her boyfriend. You know, oh, what an epic cool own that is of Pod Awful. Well, not really, because it just goes to show that all of your thought processes and reactions turn to Chantel in a moment of crisis. The moment you're under fire, you turn to Chantel. The moment you feel poverty, you turn to Chantel. The moment you feel homelessness, you turn to Chantel. And she makes it all better again. And it would be okay if, like, you made videos saying, oh, what a great woman this is. The monthly Chantel, where we clap and celebrate Chantel. Oh, yeah, what a great woman. She's having a good meal. Well, not a good meal, but she's having a copious meal. She's having a great time. You know, she's making me lots of money. I'm selling T-shirts on her branding. I'm selling vast amounts of merchandise because of her. Oh, let's just clap for Chantel. The monthly Chantel, episode 3. Let's just clap for Chantel. And said, no, you don't. You call Chantel, with every minute of your criticism, you call her a horrible person. She's terrible. She's hateful. She deserves to be hanged. These are the words you're saying, Toad. You need to be praising this woman from the rooftops. She's saved you from a life of, servitude and decrepitude. Well, maybe not servitude, but decrepitude. Servitude, she hasn't necessarily saved you from because you're playing, you're licking Dick Masterson's balls here constantly for $26 a month. And then Toad replies to this guy, you're like a girl. People who are mean to me are like girls. Well, not really, Toad. The way you're behaving is like a girl. Just saying, man. Just saying. The way you're behaving here is pretty fucking cringy. Not gonna lie. He goes on, right? He posts a picture of Josh to try and dox himself. Yeah, as opposed to just having the balls, right, to say, this is who I am. I don't care if you come after me. He posts like 1,000 pictures of other people, of fucking Josh, of Chantel's boyfriend, The real person, we don't need to know Toad's face to understand who Toad is. The real person that Toad is a slimy motherfucker, is a slimy sellout. That's the person we need to know. We don't necessarily need his face to determine that conclusion. We don't need to determine that Toad's a covetous fellow. We don't need to determine that by looking at his face and his physical appearance, because we can already calculate that from his actions, from what he's doing. Now, I made a video saying that Toad can save himself. He can save his soul. He can repent and maybe try and rebuild his reputation within this sphere. And I'm pretty confident that if he did that, if he shut down his new project too, at the very least, and stopped simping, stopped ball-boying for Dick Masterson, he'd at least gain a bit of respect, a bit of kudos from the people in this community. But alas, it doesn't seem like he's going to. Right, I was sent a DM, right, where Toad had said he'd seen the video, and it's between me, my God, and my rabbi that I'm a covetous fellow. Well, yeah, that's humorous and stuff like that, but you're not actually doing any action. It's just the same old offhand, flippant, Jim-esque comment, right? But you're not Jim. You've never been Jim, and you're never gonna be Jim, right? Because Jim took a long, long, long time to get to the point where you've become. In about, a year? It took a good 10 years for Jim to sell out. It took a good few months for you to sell out. And even Jim, right? So Jim, let's talk about Jim. Jim's been saying that this is a nothing burger, saying that Dick Masterson's DMs aren't nothing to see, are nothing to get hyped about. It's nothing. It's nothing to see here. They're not hilarious at all. Okay, I understand, Jim. Jim's not who he was. He's never been who he was for a good few years now. He's not been the person he was where he was anti-money, he was anti-taking stuff off people who are just going to throw money at you. E-begging, anti-e-begging is what Jim was for a long, long time. And it took a long time for Jim to sell out. I understand why Jim sold out, because there are stupid people out there who will just throw money at him, right? And he's cultivated this Reddit audience that will do that. That's Jim. But you're not Jim. You've not spent 10 years cultivating this audience. You've made a few good videos that had the attention of our community, and then you made a video on a fat woman that suddenly blew up. Then you circled the wagons around this fat woman. You decided to build a brand on this fat woman. You decided to sell t-shirts on this fat woman. You decided to turn your career into this fat woman who's going to die of a heart attack in a few weeks' time. You decided to do all that because that video blew up. And there's no substance there. Really, is there? If you look back on it, if you look back at it, you're just hitting this fat woman like a piñata for money. You're not even grateful for it. So you're not a big cheese. You're not Jim, right? You're not Jim. Jim's been doing cover-up for Dick Masterson. I don't know why, but I understand that Dick Masterson's like a friend, and, Jim's not who he used to be. Jim's like a fucking shadow of who he used to be. He's a lesson to us all not to go down that path. But Toad seems to be... If Jim told Toad to jump off a cliff, Toad would do it. Or he'd see that as a valid way of going about things. Everything that Jim does, Toad does in the most soylent way. This is a fact. This is a fact. But the fact is, Toad isn't this 50-year-old coughing smoker, who's dying of lung cancer, who's married to this, Chinese ethot. That's not Toad. That's Jim. Jim's at the end. Toad's at the beginning, or should be at the beginning. He's a young guy. There's no need for him to do this. There's no need for him to sell out. There's no need for him to cash out. But apparently there is, right? Apparently, for 26 pieces of silver, Toad's gonna sell out. So, this is the stream, right? What more can I say? What more can I say? There are people out there who are gonna say, Godwinson's got a problem with people making money. I've not really got a problem with people making money. I've got a problem with people making money on the condition that they have to run defence force for their lord and master who pays them that money. if it was Toad, right, just getting his $26 a month on New Project 2 and just being okay with that, not really doing anything, still laughing and poking fun at his Lord and Master, I'd be like, there'd be no reason for this stream to be made. There'd be no reason for Godwinson to lay the law down and make the day of reckoning on Toad McKinley. There'd be no need for that. Instead, Toad's done all of this defence work, this cover-up, this clean-up crew, for, what, $26? He's done that. And he's only done that, let's be honest, he's only done that because Dick Masterson has his personal details, has his docs, and he gave him his docs for $26 a month. Right, so that's the end of the stream. Let's finish this. Bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, Toad McKinley is 4 things. Toad McKinley is a coward. Toad McKinley is a phony. Toad McKinley is a charlatan. And Toad McKinley is a piece of shit.